Hey folks, welcome to the Kira Banks Show and to week 32 of a year of self-love journal. This week's affirmation is, I am worthy of being adored and cherished, and true love starts with me. I don't know about you, but this is one that I have to remind myself of, not as much now that I'm older. But I think about how when I was younger, there was this desire to have somebody, a partner, love me, adore me, cherish me, and be mad if they didn't do it the way that I wanted them to. And I will say that in the past 10 years or so, I've gotten better at realizing that I am responsible for my happiness and that I need to pour into myself, cherish myself, adore myself, and that that's my work to do. And of course, we want other people who are in our lives and who love us to do that too, but that it's actually not reasonable to expect that all to come from outside, to come from other people. And so this week asks us to think about, what makes you feel loved? What specific actions or words? And for me, what makes me feel loved is intentionality, like slowing down in the midst of things that are busy to say, you know what? Kira would like this. She would appreciate this. Like future Kira would like this. So let me set this up. So it might be something as little as, this is an example of my partner doing this, but this is something that I also do for myself. That things like kombucha, I'm a big fan. And I don't always get it because sometimes, depending on what store you're at, it's overpriced. And so I will just keep an eye out to be like, is it on sale? And is there maybe a new flavor I haven't tried? And so sometimes just grabbing that little treat, right, for myself is something that makes me feel loved, of like, oh, I'll enjoy this later tonight. And the other day, my partner came home and actually didn't even know it, but he's like, oh, I got something for you. And it was a couple kombuchas. And again, that's a small thing, but it was big for me because that's intentionality. That means sometime during the day when we were not together, he was thinking about me and he was doing something that he knew that I would like. And to me, that makes me feel loved. That makes me feel cherished. That makes me feel like he's paying attention and noticing what little things I like. And it doesn't have to be some grand gesture, but it is meaningful. Another example is flowers. I love flowers and I love arranging them. And rather than demand or expect that my partner is going to get me flowers, I started getting in the practice of getting them myself. We actually have a floral district that's not far from our house that on a certain day of the week, they're discounted. And so I would go and kind of just pick out some flowers and make an arrangement for myself. And one time he noticed and he was like, oh, you got yourself flowers, almost like, oh, like you're doing it because I didn't or something like that. And I was like, yeah, I love it when you get them for me, but I can also get them for myself. And so even just like modeling for him that I love when you do that, when it's intentional. And I also can love on myself. I can adore myself. I can cherish me enough to create this beautiful arrangement in the house, and it makes me happy. And I don't have to wait for him to decide to do it for it to happen. So I offer that to you just to say those actions are ways that I feel loved. And I have grown to realize that I don't have to wait for someone else to do them, that it's great when they do, but that I can do them for myself. So for you, what makes you feel loved? What words and actions? And then how can you use those on yourself, with yourself, and not demand them from other people or expect that other people will take care of that for you? And so again, it's not to say that you don't desire other people to care for you. It's that you can love on yourself and that starts with you. And even if they're not doing it, you're still experiencing it because you're loving on yourself. And then you choose who's in your world accordingly. But if you aren't aware of how you want to be loved and you aren't willing to pour into yourself, it's not really reasonable that you expect other people to do it and take that burden, if that makes sense. Of course, people in your world should care for you, but you also should have a sense of what makes you feel loved and cherished and a willingness to do that for yourself. So you might hear some people talk about, drawing myself a bubble bath or, scheduling a massage. Everyone has their thing. So what is your thing? And then one of the things for this week, it invites us to do, this journal invites us to do, is to think about like the most romantic experience you've had. And I will say that we often get caught up in like relationship status. And so even if like, regardless of your relationship status, when I actually thought about like a really romantic time, like when I felt whimsical and light, and what first came to mind was actually a solo hike I took. And so I thought that was interesting and actually fit this week, in that we need to love on ourselves. And that one of the things that I love is nature. Like I love it. It's very grounding to me. So whether it's a hike, like in a remote place or a city park, or just like a green space with some pretty flowers, or some, maybe a water feature, it really doesn't matter. It's like just something that's nature. I can appreciate it. And I remember one time, I don't remember what was going on in my life, but I remembered feeling like I'm going to take this time to go on this hike. And so I like researched this different trail I wanted to try. And I just remember being out. And it was one of those trails where you don't see anybody. And, but actually there was one part of the trail where you see elk. It's a reserve for elk. And so it was like me and the elk. And I just like can go back there and I can feel the like calmness in my body. I can feel not quite the wind, but it's almost like I can see the light that was in the trees, and it was beautiful. And I felt grounded. I felt light. I felt loved. I felt really present. And so I share that with you to say, romance doesn't always have to be in relationship with someone else. It could be a feeling that you have inside yourself, which is really in line with this idea that like, it starts with us. And so if I want to feel that lightness, that groundedness, the presence, the love really with other people, I got to make sure I'm cultivating it in myself. It can't only happen. It shouldn't. It doesn't need to only happen with other people, that it's something I want to continue to practice experiencing in myself. So think about that romantic time and what made it feel so special. And I think for me, what made it feel special was that I was in nature, that I was disconnected from like the obligations of life for a period of time and just dropped into this space. And it's not every day that you see elk, right? Like, and this was not that far from my house. It was like maybe a 30, 40-minute drive. And so it was a little escape. And so that's what also makes it feel special to me, is that in the midst of everything happening, that I can like do an escape. And so that is romantic to me, to like pull out and be like, ooh, I'm special enough to like pull myself out of the busyness and experience this thing. And so I like that with my friends and with my partner as well, of like, ooh, how are we going to have a little escape together? And that feels fun and like adventurous even. So a couple activities for this week to kind of get you exploring is to write a love letter to yourself. Have you ever done that? Right? Like a letter of appreciation and love. So that appreciation from last week, and extending that to think about like a love letter to yourself. Like, can you set the mood? Maybe light a candle or get cozy in a corner and write about what you love about yourself. And I want you to have some specifics. So not just something general like, I love me, but specifically, what do you love about yourself? And one of the things I love about myself is that I can find joy in almost any aspect of nature. And I can find awe. So like I'm using awe and joy a little bit interchangeably. And sometimes my family laughs at me, but like we might even be in the city and see, well, this is not really nature, but I like nature and like shapes. So we might see like a really pretty flower and I'll be like, ooh, look at that flower. And we're like on a walk to do something else. We're headed somewhere and I'm like attending to the small little detail that I think is pretty. Or this last trip I went on, I'm into doors. Like I like they don't always have to be old, but typically old doors are more interesting. old doorways, the way that the architecture is set, or maybe even the way that the bricks or stone are set around it, the color of the door. And so in my travel pics, you'll often see doors. And even sometimes when I'm walking around my neighborhood, I'll just see a door that's striking to me. And so that's something that I actually love about myself, is that I have an eye for little things and actually get excited and get some joy out of capturing. And so I've thought about, in my next phase of life, I don't know why I have to wait, learning how to do the kind of like the micro photography, where you like zoom in on small things. Doors aren't fitting that, but some of the flowers and things that I like to take pictures of might fit with that. So see what your love letter to self looks like, and then tuck it somewhere. Put it under your pillow or in a place where you might run into it in a few months. But write it to yourself, tuck it away, and then just let it be. But like sometimes just writing those things down can get us more in touch with the love that we have for ourselves. And then there's also another activity that just gives you some ideas. Again, regardless of relationship status, you can cultivate romance in your life, love in your life, and love for yourself. Because, right, that's what this year is about. It's a year of self-love and exploring that and all the different ways that we can engage, foster, and build that practice, that muscle. So let me know how you are practicing loving on yourself and what you love about yourself. I'm Dr. Kira Banks across all socials, and I'll see you next time on The Kira Banks Show.
Have tea to spill or something you want to ask Dr. Banks? Contact her at kirabanks.com/stories or stories@raisingequity.org. Thanks for listening.